Kia ora koutou katoa. Welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about the first assessment for the course Leading Research-Informed Innovation in Practice. This is part of the program Postgraduate Certificate in Digital and Collaborative Learning, which is also part one of the Master of Contemporary Education. This is the second course in this program, TCLC 8002, Leading Research-Informed Innovation in Practice. That's a bit of a mouthful, so we normally call it Innovation. And this is the first assessment, so we call that Innovation 1. And like the other two assessments that you did for the Transformation course, it's a summative competency-based assessment. The title is Evidence-Based Digital and Collaborative Innovation. He aohatanga matihiko, mahi nā tahi hoki kua putaki mai I te taunakitanga. It's a group assessment, as it was for the first transformation assessment. The difference here is that that particular assignment, the first one, was a video, had to be a group video. This time you get a choice. It can, again, be a group video, or it can be a group essay. As before, we recommended the group sizes were between 2 and 4 people. If you want a bigger group, then please just check that out with your OHU facilitator. Just let us know in advance. Similarly, if you've got particularly strong reasons for wanting to do this assessment individually, please confirm that with your OHU facilitator first. So 2 options, either a video presentation of 15 to 17 minutes in duration, that's the same length as it was for Transformation 1, or an essay between 3,200 and 3,600 words. That's a little bit longer than the word count for Transformation 2 because that was individual and this is group. It may be if you wrote an essay for Transformation 2 that you've already become familiar with Turnitin, but it's a little bit more complicated with this one. So I'll just run through this briefly. Written work does have to be submitted as a Turnitin report. The important thing is that only one of the group should submit your work to Turnitin, because if anybody else submits the same work, it'll just come back as 100% similar. So we want you to agree amongst yourselves which one of you is going to upload your essay to Turnitin. That person will then download the Turnitin report, the similarity report, share it with the other members of the group, and then the whole group will individually submit that same report to the LMS for assessment. So just make sure that only one of you submits your joint work to Turnitin. You may be aware also that Turnitin generates an AI report, which supposedly indicates the use of AI tools. If we feel it's necessary, we'll share that report with you. So, for example, if it shows a high level of AI, and these things may be false positives, we may want to have a conversation with you about if and how AI may or may not have been used. Bearing in mind, of course, that we do allow you to use AI, but we do ask you to follow our guidelines, which are on the LMS. The most important thing is if you use any AI support, let us know what you used and why you used it. So it's completely transparent. So you're welcome to use AI, but we want to have that awareness of where and how it's been used. Okay, so that's the options that you have. The rubric items, of course, items 4 and 5 are familiar to you by now from the first 2 assessments, presenting your learning clearly and being research informed, citing your sources in APA format. So the important aspects for this assessment are the 3 top rubric items. Critically analyze your professional and social educational contexts. And that, of course, is all of your contexts together. So some kind of group reflection on that. Apply evidence-based approaches to problem solving. Again, we would expect some sort of group gathering of evidence, whatever that might be, and developing culturally intelligent digital and collaborative innovation in practice. I'll talk about that a little bit more in terms of how we want that to work as a group. So let's talk about what the rubric items are on the LMS, because as normal, we have under the description column some sort of trigger questions to give you an idea about what we would like you to do when you're addressing those questions. So let's look at the first one. Critically analyze your professional and social educational contexts. We're asking you to identify some current issues in your professional and social educational contexts as a group. So we're looking for some common ideas that are interesting to all of you. So what are issues that all of you are recognizing, and how might they impact on one another? So how do they relate to and interact with each other? So it might be, for example, that there's some kind of social issue that's impacting on you professionally, for example. So we just want you to come together as a group and identify some common areas of interest. The second one, apply evidence-based approaches to problem solving. So, what's your shared problem? What is it that you want to address in your practice that's common to all of you that relates somehow to those contexts that you talked about in the first part? And what evidence have you gathered to help you address those problems? So, what could you do? What evidence do you have about the ways that you might tackle that shared problem? And the third one, probably the most important really, is what will you do during the remainder of the course to address your shared problem using digital and collaborative innovation? Um, so the way it works is this assessment is kind of a planning assessment. We're asking you to look at your situations as a group, what's important to you, what kind of things could you tackle, and then after you've done this assessment for the last quarter of the course, well, the last half of this course, the quarter of the program, we want you to actually innovate in your practice and address something related to that shared problem. Of course, you might be addressing different parts of it, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And also to consider what culturally intelligent approaches you will apply in that innovative approach to the problems you've identified. So that's kind of big picture stuff. What I want to talk through is how this fits into this sort of journey in the innovation course from a group discussion of some shared problems to individual work in your classrooms. So if we go from assessment one to assessment two, this is just looking ahead. So assessment two is going to be implementing innovation in educational practice. And at that point, we want you to have actually done something innovative in your practice based on the ideas that you're discussing in this current assessment one. So assessment one is identifying and planning an innovation in your practice as a group. But assessment two is about implementing that innovation and reporting on it individually. So, how might that work? I've got a few different scenarios to sort of talk through how we think you might tackle that depending on the situation that you're in. Okay, so let's say it's a group plan, but it's also a group implementation. So perhaps you're at the same school, or perhaps you're doing exactly the same innovation as a group. So you can plan your innovation as a group in this current assessment. You can implement that together, but then write it up from your own individual perspective. Now, of course, there might be some very common parts of those different individual assessments because you're talking about the same situation, the same background, the same innovation. But then we're also looking for your own contribution to that, your own role, your own experiences, your own reflections, your own learning. Bear in mind, here I'm talking about assessment two, not the one we're looking at the moment, but we're just kind of looking ahead so you can contextualize it a bit. It might be that you're doing this group plan now, but you're planning to do an individual implementation. Um, Again, we would expect to see maybe some common items in that assessment, but again, it will be about your individual implementation and reflections. That sort of critical reflection part is always the individual thing. So when we're looking ahead, uh, whether you intend to implement your innovation as a group or individually is going to impact on how you work together for this assessment one, because of course you're doing a kind of forward-thinking plan in this assessment. So we don't want you to get too sort of hung up on what's in assessment two, because you don't have to do the innovation yet, but we're asking you to think about what that innovation in your practice might be while you're working towards this assessment one. So I hope that's useful, and you enjoy doing this assessment together, and we'll look forward to seeing what you come up with. Ka kite.